Hi, everybody, and welcome back to On the DL. We have our guest coming from Lexington, Kentucky today. Hello, Amanda. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
I want to get right into this because health, wellness, nutrition, dieting, obsession over food is one of, I would say, probably my favorite things to talk about because it is so important and so relevant right now. I'm sure you you feel the exact same way. Amanda, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Amanda Nighbert. I'm a registered dietitian with a passion for health and wellness. I worked in a clinical setting for nearly 20 years, and about 5 years, I kind of stepped out into this virtual space. And I'm super passionate about simplifying nutrition. Working in the clinical setting, I felt like people were always coming to me just overwhelmed and confused with all the noise in the space about nutrition. What should we actually be doing for health and wellness? So that's really my focus is to, help people see that it's not hard and it doesn't have to be complicated.
No, and it's been made so complicated, and of course, the advent of everything social. There's so many layers to where you can find out information and what is out there. There's so much false information out there. Um, so much of it is based on science, and so much of it is not based on science. So I guess having a scientific background, um, do you base a lot of what you talk about in science?
You know, I totally agree with what you're saying. And when I talk about noise, I feel like the message that's being put out there is a lot of upper level nutritional strategies.
Mm.
And where people struggle with is their foundation. And if you don't have a solid foundation with just, again, the simple things like making sleep a priority, eating, colorful whole foods, optimizing your protein. Like if you're not doing those bare basics, then all of that other, upper level stuff that you hear about, it's not going to work. So my approach again in terms of simplifying nutrition is just getting people to understand that regardless of what health condition you're in, whether you are, diabetic, you have hypertension, you have autoimmune, or whether you just want to lose weight, the foundation never changes.
Okay, we're going to get into all of that. Right off the top, I want to say two things. One, if you're not following Amanda on Instagram, you should because that's how I found you. And I want to say that you are one of my go-tos, like daily go-tos, not just for, inspiration and fun stuff that you post, but the knowledge that you share is so incredible. And I love people who are smart and have something to share and then share it. And you do that on a daily. So it's not just about nutrition. You're also sharing a ton of exercises that they're they're completely practical and smart exercises. I say like to people ask me all the time, what do you do? What do you eat? I say, you know what? Find that one person on Instagram or wherever it is you are, Facebook or whatever social channel you're on, find that person, scroll through their stuff and see if it speaks to you. You spoke to me. So I wanted to meet you. So I wanted to
Yay.
tell everybody to go follow you or at least check you out because you're so generous with your time and your information. And the other, your TED Talk. Oh my God. Okay. Oh my God, Amanda. Like, seriously.
It's powerful stuff, powerful stuff. And has nothing to do with what you eat or how much you exercise.
Right. So I want to talk about these two sort of schools of thoughts that really you dive into, like as I said, on a daily. So I just want people to know that they could find your TEDx talk. It was March 2021, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Almost a year ago.
So and you've had 20 years of experience, right? 20 years experience as
Over,
a
unfortunately, yes.
over 20 years experience, and you have something called your lean program.
Yes.
So can we
Yeah,
start with
lean is
that? Yeah.
yes, it's my signature program. Lean actually stands for living energized and nourished. And again, it's where I teach people the foundational work that is important for you to do consistently over time to see long-term results. The foundational work that should feel sustainable, because quick fixes are not where it's at. And where you're able to then, once you have that foundation, build on other areas of your life.
So you speak about something, and again, this resonates. I'm going to paraphrase something, or pretty much what you speak about all the time, which is it's not all or nothing, and stop eating like an asshole. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, again, I've been in the field of weight loss. I've been a weight loss dietitian for over 20 years. And, when I was young and starting my career and counseling patients and in the hospital setting, I did have this kind of naive belief that it was, it came down to you weren't doing the work, you weren't following the right diet, you weren't, making the right choices. And in the long run, once I, had multiple years, decades under my belt, I came to realize that it's not the diet that fails, it's the mindset that fails. It's the all or nothing mindset. We, especially in America, we are the world of perfection. We want to be perfect. We want to look perfect. We want to, we think that in order to achieve success, we have to be perfect. And it just doesn't work like that with our health and wellness. And I would see people, especially like this time of year, January, February, when people are all in, they're perfect. They're following their new diet plan, their new exercise program to a T. And it's where people struggle is when I call it a life event. Something happens that causes you to not be able to follow through with those goals perfectly. And in your mind, you think, well, if I can't do it 100%, it's not worth doing 90%. I'm not going to see any benefit doing it 80%, 70%. So I might as well do nothing at all. And that's why people fail in the long run.
And you really feel like that is really the crux of why people are going off their health and wellness plans or their journeys. And because I always talk about, and I always say that your health and your wellness, it's just that, it's a journey. There's ebbs and there's flows, and it cannot be amazing every day of your life. And you're definitely going to have days where you say, that was not a great day for me. I drank too much, I ate too much, I didn't move, all of the above. But then
I was an asshole.
I was an asshole.
That's what that is. Don't eat like an asshole. Don't be an asshole.
And so what do you say to people when they say to you, I just ate like an asshole?
Yeah. Well, what I try to teach people is that that's going to happen. We're all going to have asshole days, It's really how you respond to that moment that makes or breaks your success. And in my TED Talk, I talk about different scenarios and how, again, events in your life trigger these types of opportunities. And I actually give you like 3 takeaways in order to help you break the all or nothing mindset. The first one is living 80-20. Okay. So recognizing that you're not going to be 100% of the time, but aiming for, 80% traction, doing the things that, support your goals, your health and wellness 80% of the time, and then living your life 20% of the time. And I try to teach my clients how to actually quantify that. For example, if you eat 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, that's 21 meals. All right. 80% of 21 is 17. So your goal every week is to make 17 of your meals count. And then 3 to 4 meals, you can be flexible. You can enjoy the foods you want to eat. You can, indulge in different areas. All right. There's your 80-20. I also love that.
Just that right there, just that alone is sustainable. If you just think about it, that is crazy sustainable. Because if you just think back, anybody right now that's listening can think back to what they did last week, and they think about maybe where they had a pitfall, they might say to themselves, oh, really, like maybe one dinner here because I went out, or one afternoon I just didn't eat properly because I was working too much, or whatever that may be. That's not really a lot. So
It's not.
why am I beating myself up so badly?
Exactly. I mean, I find, especially women, we are so hard on ourselves, you know?
Crazy.
So again, I think the ability to kind of quantify that helps you to see, okay, well, listen, 80% of the time, I did really darn good this week. Okay. I'm not going to let those 2 or 3 meals make me feel bad about myself. This was a win. I love to quantify alcohol because I think alcohol is a challenging, thing for a lot of people right now. People are drinking more than they really ever have with
Yeah.
what we've gone through in the last 2 years. And so, for example, in a 30-day month, a lot of people may think 80%, drinking only 20% is Friday and Saturday night. Well, it's not. That's 8 days a month. So actually 20% is 6 days a month. So again, recognizing what that actually looks like allows you to, give and take. Okay, well, I'm going to take Friday off this week and this week. And then at the end of the month, I'm going to have consumed alcohol only 20% of the time.
And we can remind everyone that consuming alcohol is it's not great for so many reasons, but it's just filled with tons of calories and usually makes you feel pretty crappy the next day if you've had too much. Right?
Well, yes, it's obviously it's macro heavy. And it sometimes, you overindulge, you end up overindulging in food as well. Number 3, which is probably the biggest thing, especially women, listen up. It is significantly wrecking your sleep. And if you are of my age, 45 or above, and you are going into menopause and you are dealing with that midsection kind of hormonal bloat, a lot of times that is lack of quality sleep, and alcohol really impacts that. So
it's that cortisol response.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. So 80/20 is, a great way to kind of look at things. The other one that kind of ties into this is your ability to drop the might as well thinking. Okay. So let me give you a scenario. You walk into work Friday morning and somebody brought in a box of hot, fresh donuts, and donuts do not currently align with your health and wellness goals. So you try really hard to resist, but you end up having a few. Well, for so many, an event like this turns on the might as well thinking. Well, might as well have nachos for lunch and pizza and beer for dinner because I've already blown it. And because it's Friday, for so many, it turns into might as well eat like an asshole all weekend and start fresh on Monday. When in reality, 1, 2, 3 donuts Friday morning did not make or break your success. It is what you chose to do after that meal that ultimately did. So again, recognizing that you're going to be put in situations where you may not, make the best decision, but it is your ability after those scenarios, after that meal, to learn how to pivot and regroup the fastest that allows you to create the consistency you need for long-term success. So dropping the might as well thinking.
Okay, so before we get to the number 3, I think it's important to just bring this up because I know you talk about dieting and diet culture and why it doesn't work. And there are so many diets and diet plans that are out there that deprive people of just joy. I don't know how else to put it, but it's just so not joyful to be on a diet. And it does leave people feeling helpless and sad, really upset. And maybe things aren't happening fast enough. And they do have that donut on a Friday morning and say, forget it, I am not going back on any diet because they don't work for me. And I've just had it. So it sounds like the might as well is so prevalent in diet culture, right? It's just something that just keeps coming up all the time. Might as well.
Yeah, and I think that people that fall into that might as well thinking are people that see the difference. They label good food bad food, and in my mind, all foods fit. There are no good foods or bad foods. There are just foods that we eat 80% of the time and foods we eat 20% of the time. And I think when you start, a lot of diets out there are very black and white. It is all or nothing. You can either have all the carbs or you can have no carbs, And so people think, oh, well, if I'm doing a low carb diet, and I eat 40 carbs in a day, well, I've blown it. And in
Mhm.
reality, that's just not the case. It just doesn't work like that. So I think that that's why people get such in a rut, and in this yo-yo cycling a diet. They're looking for quick fixes and they're doing things that are not sustainable. One of my biggest taglines is whatever you do to lose the weight, you better be prepared to do to keep it off.
Mhm.
Because if you can't sustain the lifestyle that allowed you to see weight loss, how do you think you're going to be able to maintain your results? And that's why anytime that you are working on increasing your, health and losing weight, it has to feel sustainable. It has to feel like something that you can do forever.
Okay, so what is number 3? What's your third
So number
takeaway?
3 is to simply always do something. You can never put your health and wellness completely on the back burner. And I see this a lot in people that have really pivotal life events. Maybe it's an accident, a fire, a divorce, a lost job. Things that happen kind of really suddenly, and it's like you're so overwhelmed with the scenario in which you're in that you feel you don't have the capacity to do anything else. And even in those situations, you have to find the ability to do something. Because if you aim for being just 1% better every single day, it adds up over time. So, basically recognizing that even in periods when you feel like you can't do it all or you can't do a lot, always find one or two things that you can do in order to keep your health and wellness at the forefront.
So like what? What would be one or two things that you can do? What's
Well,
easy?
I think that would vary from person to person.
Mhm.
It could be as simple as, I'm going to continue to increase my step count every day. So I'm going to take a walk because that's going to be good for my mental health and it's going to be good for my
Amazing.
activity level. It might be, you know what, I can't do anything else, but I'm going to make sleep a priority. I'm going to make sure I get to bed and I, get that quality sleep. It may be I'm going to keep up my workouts. That's going to help manage my stress, going to help me feel good. So, it really kind of depends on what you feel like you're actually possibly capable of doing. In addition to what you feel like the lifestyle habits that impact you the most.
So I have so many questions for you. I feel like I'm just tapping into just like a little bit about you right now because you've again, and your Instagram is so amazing. I go on it. I'm like, yes, you're speaking my language. This is all amazing stuff. So we know what you've just talked about why diets fail. So we know why they fail, right? They're not sustainable, and most people can't keep up the. I'm not drinking for 90 days. I'm not having a carb, not one carb for the next 3 months. I don't know. I'm naming all the things that I find for me would not be sustainable. I mean, I like to have wine sometimes. I like to have carbs sometimes. Hold on. I think I just, where are you there? Hold on a second. Are you, sir? Sorry, you just, my screen just went bananas on me. So we get why diets fail, but tell me why you feel that inflammation is such a huge part of maybe gaining weight or not achieving the health and the weight that you want to have.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like there's a hierarchy approach to health and wellness, especially weight loss. I'm big on macro management. We've all lived in the kind of calories in versus calories out mindset for so long. We know that it's just not that simple. So I really like to empower my clients by learning more about macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and the fourth macronutrient, alcohol, and learn the appropriate balance of that. Once you have a good understanding of kind of, where your optimal macronutrient levels should lie, the second step is, kind of what you eat, so that's how much you eat. This is more what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are basically, I identified the top 4 inflammatory foods that we consume often to be sugar, alcohol, gluten, and cow dairy. They tend to be the top 4. And I
Mm.
find a lot of women, I tend to work with a lot of women. A lot of women are struggling with that midsection bloat. We also, if you're dealing with diabetes, hypertension, joint pain, chronic migraines, eczema, I mean, really any medical condition that you are dealing with stems from inflammation. So when you can reduce that inflammatory response in your body, I say everyone's holding 5 to 6 pounds of inflammation at any time. You just feel better. And I find when you feel better, people do better. So it's a little bit of a spiral effect, but I think people are more inflamed. Again, inflammation is running really rampant right now for a lot of reasons.
That's very interesting because, I'm just thinking about my own health, and I'm sure people that are listening are thinking about their own health, and they're thinking about what they're eating, and then they're thinking about their midsection, thinking, maybe that 5 pounds I've been trying to get off is actually, I could see a difference if I just start to decrease a little bit of the alcohol, a little bit of the sugar, a little bit of the gluten, for sure, a little bit of the dairy. But what is your recommendation in terms of reduction? Can't do it all at once or you're going to fail. We know that. Stop eating everything all at once. Yeah.
Yeah.
80-20.
I mean, that's really what I preach. I want my clients to, reduce
80-20.
inflammation 80% of the time. All of those 4 food groups kind of align with that 20%. Now, again, I think it's important that you start where you are. For example, I was working with a client who was drinking 7 days a week. And I said, is it realistic for us to ask you to only drink 1.5 days a week when you're drinking 7 days a week? And he said, no, I think you're going to set me up to fail. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you feel like would be a realistic goal for you to start? And he said, only drink 4 days a week. And I said, great, that's better than 7. So again, I think a lot of people look at these very arbitrary guidelines that we set out. For example, 10,000 steps a day. Well, if you're only walking 3,000 steps a day, you are absolutely setting yourself up to fail to aim for 10,000 steps a day. But if you go from walking 3,000 steps a day to 4,000 steps a day, that is progress. That will have an impact, So again, it's really identifying kind of where you are. And, again, that 1% doing a little bit better.
Talk to me about healthy fats. What's
Yeah.
a healthy fat? What is a healthy fat?
What is a healthy fat? I always say fat got the bad rap in the 90s, when the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when the first food guide pyramid came out. Now carbs and sugars are getting the bad rap. Rightfully so, but I still feel like that creates a very polarizing issue where people think you can have no carbs in order to be successful, which is false. But so when it comes to healthy fats, I try to keep it really simple. Okay. Butter, ghee, olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil are my go-to fats. Okay. If they're organic, that's even better. Okay. A little bit more quality, higher CLA count, which is powerful for your metabolism. They create very little inflammation in the body and they're good for you. Pretty much all other fats, canola oil, vegetable oil, soybean oil, peanut oil, all those other, trans fats, hydrogenated oils, they're really bad for you. And they're wreaking havoc on your metabolism, specifically for that omega-6 to omega-3 ratio that we're kind of dealing with. So just to simplify it, that's what I stick with.
So all of those salad dressings that people just douse, they're thinking that they're having such a fabulous, healthy dinner because they're having a little piece of protein and a huge salad, because all the diets out there tell you load up on all the vegetables that you want. But to make it better and to enjoy your meal more, you're pouring on the dressing. Well, that dressing is not olive oil based.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is the problem. We have a just extremely unhealthy consumption, specifically like soybean oil and vegetable oils and pretty much everything that we consume. So if you're looking to, improve your overall fat intake, I would stick with products that are made with those that I mentioned, or, make a healthier dressing at home.
Right. You can make an olive oil or a coconut oil dressing at home. It's easy as anything, right?
Absolutely.
You can Google that and find recipes. And I always say to people, don't be afraid of using, like if you're making it from home, don't be afraid to use that oil, because then they're also on diets and they're, well, I'm only allowed a teaspoon of oil. Maybe you need a little bit more than a teaspoon of oil.
I always
So,
tell people, broccoli is more nutritious with butter on it because
oh,
without the
yum.
fat, without the butter, you can't absorb all the fat soluble vitamins. And fat soluble vitamins are where we are struggling the most. A, D, E, K. Those are where we're most deficient. So adding the butter actually helps you to absorb it. The other thing that I say is that I work with so many picky eaters. They're like, I don't like vegetables. And ultimately, the reason why you're so picky is because your food tastes like crap. You
Yeah.
steam it, you don't add salt, you don't add butter, and it's disgusting. So adding a little healthy fats, adding some salt will make that food so much more palatable, and you'll actually enjoy eating it.
But are you, when you say butter, you mean ghee butter. You're not talking about just like hunks of butter that you get on in the grocery
Well,
store.
I would
Like,
prefer organic butter because it's just
okay,
higher quality, but I'm talking butter. Yes, butter,
okay.
ghee. Ghee is just a basically clarified butter.
Mhm.
So a lot of people are worried with butter, especially because butter's dairy.
Right.
But when we make butter and actually dairy fat, so butter, heavy whipping cream, 99% of the inflammatory properties we find in dairy are gone. They're removed. Ghee actually takes out that last 1%. So yes, ghee is above butter, but butter is not bad for you.
Okay, that's good to know. Right. Again, if you grew up in the 80s and 90s and heart health, you're all part of that movement, which was butter was bad. And it was part of, I don't know when you grew up, but I grew up in the margarine era.
Oh
My
yeah.
parents used it was the grossest thing ever. It was almost I couldn't wait to move out so I could eat butter. Because my
Right. We can
parents just,
actually correlate the increase of heart disease, obesities, and diabetes with the reduction of the consumption of butter. Yes.
isn't that interesting? That's
Because we all
very
went to
interesting.
eating hydrogenated fatty acids,
Right.
which were horrible for us.
Right. And again, can we talk about portion control? So we're of course we're not telling people to go out and just consume mounds of butter every day, but how much should a person just being mindful? I know it's the 80-20 mindset, but being mindful of how much butter can we put on our broccoli?
I mean,
Is it
teaspoons,
a perfect?
definitely, yes, want to be
Yeah.
considerate about your fat intake. At the end of the day, calories do matter. Okay.
Yes.
If you want to lose weight, you have to be in a caloric deficit. And the reason why fat got a bad rap to begin with is because of that's what they thought they lived and died by, calories in versus calories out. Well, 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. So, fats will really bump up your calories very quickly. So definitely fat is always something that you want to use in moderation, but it's not something that you have to completely avoid.
So, what is it if someone's looking at a food label, whether it is a salad dressing, a protein shake, a protein bar, crackers, whatever it may be? What would you say when you're looking at that label? You have to be very mindful that that's not something you want to consume.
With relation to what? Are we talking about fat?
Just like generally, because we're talking about inflammation and I mean weight gain, cortisol response,
Yeah, I
but
mean, when we're talking about inflammation, I can pretty much guarantee if it's in a box or a bag, it's
yeah,
probably going to create inflammation. I
yeah,
mean, those are the foods that you want to be using less. I mean, I,
a
I encourage
box.
minimally processed foods and like, so crackers, I mean, they're a highly processed food. If you can't, you know, physically see where that food came from, oh, I see the kernel of corn or I see the grain of wheat, then that's going to be a highly processed food and it's probably going to be more inflammatory than not. Now, there are a lot of products out there that are gluten free and, seed oil free. And yes, they definitely have a better inflammation profile, but how are they going to impact your blood glucose?
Mm.
They're probably going to impact your blood glucose in the same way. So, it's really hard. I guess it just depends on like what are your motives of reading the label? What are you really looking for?
So, do you? That actually brings me to my next question. How do you feel about protein powders and protein bars?
You know, I love protein powders. I love protein bars because I believe protein is the most important macronutrient for weight loss and is the most underconsumed macronutrient across the board. So I am always for whole foods first and foremost. I think we should be getting our, vitamins, minerals, our macronutrients from whole foods. But if you struggle to hit your minimum protein goal, and grabbing a protein shake or grabbing a protein bar helps you do that, I think the benefits outweigh the possible, negative side effects.
Right, because it's probably better to grab a protein bar than a
A Snickers
Snickers
bar.
bar.
Yeah.
Right. We always say Snickers because it's loaded with peanuts. And I don't know why we always say Snickers. Somewhere, somebody must have said it was healthy.
I agree.
I don't know what,
I think it's like the most
commercial?
popular like candy bar,
Oh, is it? It may. I grew up with Snickers. I ate them all the time, and because there's peanuts in them, maybe
Yeah.
my mom said it was good for me to eat because there's peanuts. I
Yeah.
don't know what that is, but
I think
okay.
it's
So protein.
again, all foods fit, there's just a kind of a hierarchy, like where do they fall in the chain? I think protein bars and protein shakes are not that bad.
Some of them real crap though.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of like any product. I mean, you can get
Yeah.
a very high quality, protein product, and you can get a really cheap one. And I think ultimately price reflects that in most cases.
Oh, that's good advice because there are some. I actually just saw one today online, and it was like a tub like this, and it's gluten free, sugar free, wheat free. It was all everything free, and it was $35. Now, $35 to me for a tub of protein powder isn't expensive. I mean, it's expensive, but it's cheap compared
Right.
to protein powders that are $60 or $70 for a tub this big, right?
Exactly.
So I was like, oh, that sounds really good, but I bet you it tastes like chalk. And I wonder,
that's true too. Yes.
and I wonder what's actually really in there, like what oils that they're actually using to make that protein powder. Okay, so that's good news. Tell me about how you feel about intermittent fasting. So I've heard you speak about this. What do you think?
Yeah, so I always say, as a registered dietitian, we had to put our hand on our diploma and say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So for me to finally come to a point where I saw the power and the potential in intermittent fasting, it took a lot of research, a lot of trial and error with my own patients and clients. But I love intermittent fasting. I think people use it as the top level of their nutritional strategy, and it really isn't. It is just another tool in your tool belt for overall health and wellness. I think there's a lot of things that people find success with fasting. I tend to lean more towards intermittent fasting versus long-term fasting, greater than 24 hours. And I believe everybody should be fasting for at least 12 hours, from your 1-year-old to your 110-year-old. There's a lot of power in that. We know when we look back prior to the first food guide pyramid, and in addition, when the first guidelines came out to eat 6 small meals a day, those came out together, they coincided with each other. Prior to those recommendations, we fasted for at least 12 to 14 hours every day. Breakfast was at 8, lunch was at noon, dinner was at 5:30. Again, I'm 45. I remember coming home from high school asking my mom for a snack, and she would say, no, you're going to ruin your dinner. Well,
absolutely.
Nowadays, it's like if we don't feed our kids every 2 hours, they're going to die. And then we get pissed because we sit them down to chicken and broccoli at dinner and they don't need a bite. Well, they just had a bowl of goldfish an hour ago.
Oh my God, exactly.
Yeah. So, this whole 6 small meals a day is ruining our insulin response. Eating from 11, stopping eating 11 o'clock at night and starting eating at 6 a.m. is ruining that kind of, fasting period. So 12 hours is what I say the minimum. I will work with clients and do anywhere up to 16 hours. That's kind of like my stopping point. Because I think protein optimization is so important, and it's hard to optimize protein in less than 8 hours. So there's a lot of great benefit in reducing your eating window. It's basically what it comes down to at least 12 hours, 10 hours, maybe even 8 hours throughout the day.
That's very interesting. I feel like that is something that doctors talk about a lot now. Any doctor in any field will say it's important to stop eating at night at a certain hour. Your body has to just stop. You need that time.
Yeah.
And the insulin has to stop. everything has to stop.
Well, and I think when you teach people about the power of fasting, like, okay, so what happens? So autophagy is huge. That's why we're hearing so much about intermittent fasting, is because in 2016, the Nobel Peace Prize was won for the discovery of autophagy. It was at that point that finally somebody said, hey, you know what? There's actually this really powerful thing happening when we don't eat. All right. So we should be not so scared of not eating. Whereas before that, it was like, if you don't eat, you're going to ruin your metabolism. You're going to not lose weight. You know, I was so fearful of like skipping meals. And so since that point, we've done so much research on the power of autophagy, and it has so many medical applications. And, you know, also fasting is really great for weight loss. And I'll say the reason why I see it to be successful with my clients is, you know, it gives them a strategy. All right. So typically, if I'm going to eat like an asshole, it's going to be after 8 p.m. Okay. It's going to be after dinner. It's going to be on the couch. That's when I'm going to get my munchies, my cravings. I'm going to want my sweet and salt, you know, and probably it's just, I'm tired. I'm stressed. I need to go to bed, you know, but when you have kind of like this fasting goal, then, you know, it allows you to say, well, it's 8 o'clock. My window's closed. You know, I'm not going to give into those temptations. I'm going to go to bed. You know, I'm going to drink some tea, whatever. So I think people find a lot of power in that. And then again, it also gives them a license. You know, finding 6 small healthy things to eat throughout the day is really hard, you know, but finding 2 or 3, you know, healthy things to eat throughout the day is a lot easier.
Yeah. And again, it was, I don't remember the decade, but it was, you need a snack before bed. So you don't wake up starving.
So ramp up our blood sugar right before
That's
bed.
right. Like have a little bit of protein before you go to sleep. So it's almost like, you know, I don't know why we're doing that. We're not newborns. We don't need a dream. We don't need a dream feed to get through the night. Right. And it's that same mindset. It's wake your baby up and feed your baby so they can have a dream feed. Why would I wake my baby up? Let my baby sleep and they'll wake up when they're hungry. I never did the dream feed either. And I personally have really tried to shut down everything in terms of consumption after dinner, because I don't feel well. I'll get a stomach ache. So that was my body speaking to me. And that's another thing I wanted to ask you, is that people have to listen to their bodies. And I don't think that they're listening to their bodies. And that's why we're seeing such an increase in obesity rates and sickness. And you can't just blame it on COVID. I mean, yes, we've been stuck in our homes here in Canada, particularly in Ontario, a lot longer than you have. I know, it's bananas. We're out now, but we weren't for a very long time. So you can certainly blame it all on that. And maybe that did spark a lot of illness and people feeling very unwell for sure. But people are not listening to their bodies. They're just not. So if their stomach is full and something's delicious, stop eating. Then you're acting like an asshole, right?
Yeah. You know, I think that the last 2 years, people have just been using food to cope. You know, I mean, things have been just so stressful in so many different ways. And it is the one area where we can find joy, you know, I mean, and that's the thing is, you know, Doritos and Snickers bars and cookies and cakes bring you a lot more joy than carrots and, you know, apples. And so I think people have been leaning on those hyper processed, you know, hyper engineered foods that are made to make you want more, crave more, need more. They're made to make you, you know, spike and then crash. And it's hard to get out of that cycle, you know, that vicious cycle of just constant hunger, constant cravings. You know, I think it takes a good, you know, almost 7 to 14 days of just being really focused on whole food nutrition, optimizing your protein to get past the point where you're not craving that stuff anymore. So, you know, I think that is playing a huge role, is just, you know, what we went through led to some really unhealthy choices, and getting out of that kind of vicious cycle. It's not effortless, you know, it takes a lot of effort. But once people are consuming, like you mentioned, you know, foods that actually fill you up, foods that keep you full, foods that help you stay satisfied, those cravings go away. And I love to use this visual that, you know, really helps people to kind of see this. So when you put a cracker, a chip, a cookie, a pretzel, even like a piece of bread or a piece of cake, chocolate in your mouth, and you suck on it, what happens? It just melts away. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to chew, you don't have to swallow. Those foods are basically going to dissolve. Now put a piece of chicken, steak, pork, broccoli, asparagus, lettuce in your mouth and suck on it. What happens?
Right.
Nothing. Those are foods that you must chew. Those are foods that you must swallow. Those are foods that create bulk and volume in your stomach, therefore filling you up. Those are foods that take 4 to 5 hours to digest, therefore keeping you full. There's a reason why you can eat a sleeve of crackers and still be hungry, why you can eat a bag of chips and still be hungry, a gallon of ice cream, 4 bowls of cereal. By the time those foods hit your stomach, they're gone. They're not there to fill you up, and they're not there to keep you full. So recognizing that when you make your next food choice, if you go to grab a snack, you're hungry, you're like, oh, I'm going to grab this handful of pretzels as a snack. Know that that is not going to fill you up and satisfy your need. You'd be better off grabbing an apple with peanut butter. You'd be better off grabbing, some hard-boiled eggs and an avocado. Those foods are going to kind of fill you up and keep you full.
And they're good for you.
And they're good for you. Yeah.
And they're good for you.
I would say one last thing in terms, because I know people are really struggling with sugar cravings,
yeah, it's huge.
It's huge. Sugar cravings are not a macronutrient issue. They are not a carb, protein, and fat issue. They are a micronutrient issue. That is your body craving for vitamins and minerals. And here's the thing, we in the United States, we are overfed and undernourished. We get plenty of calories, but we don't get enough micronutrients, and that's what's making us so sick. So I always say, if you have a ton of sugar cravings, allow yourself to eat as much fruit as you want, okay? If you allow yourself to eat as much fruit as you want in those scenarios, and you stay away from the highly processed sugar, 7 days later, your sugar cravings are gone. I promise you.
I love this advice. You know why I love this so much? Because every single diet right now, I would ask someone, and I would beg to differ with me because I've done this research.
Villainizes fruit.
Yes, they're like, you can have one portion, like a quarter cup of blueberries and half of an apple a day. It's like, what do you mean? I want an orange and I want a banana. Stop like telling me the bananas are so bad for me. And I want my fruit. I love my fruit. I would rather have that than the Snickers bar. Absolutely. Or the Oreo cookie.
Well, and this is what I see all the time is I will talk to someone and be like, oh, I've got horrible sugar cravings. I'm eating Skittles and, gummy bear, whatever. And I'm like, well, why don't you use fruit? And they'll say, well, fruit's high in sugar. And I'm like, but it's not Skittles, okay?
Right.
So again, we're moving in the right direction. So we're able to address your craving, because if I tell you don't eat anything, well, yeah, you do good for one day and then you're back in your bag of candy. But if I give you an option that allows you to appropriately address that craving, fruit, eat all the fruit you want that's high in fiber, high in, vitamins and minerals, trust me, eventually you're not going to need 4 pieces of fruit every day. Okay, you're going to get to the point where you only need 1 or 2 pieces.
Do you think it's worth people checking out their certain levels, their vitamins and mineral levels, if they're having crazy sugar cravings, or you recommend start it this way?
I just think that like starting there, again, you don't need to look at any levels to get started. Like you can just assume you are part of the majority and you are in need. So I really think it's more beneficial to actually put forth some effort into your foundational work, prioritizing protein, prioritizing color in your diet, fiber, healthy fats, reducing inflammation, like we talked about. Then 6-8 weeks in, 3-4 months in, then check your blood work and see where you are. If you're good, then maybe you weren't as bad to start out with. If you're still bad, then you can only imagine where you were.
What if you hate fruit? I know that's a weird thing to say, but what if you don't like it?
Well, don't eat it. I mean, eat some carrots. I don't know.
Oh yeah, right. Carrots are sweet. That's right.
Yeah, eat some carrots, eat some beets,
What about those?
Surely there's one fruit that somebody could find.
I know, they've got to eat an orange.
There's always one, trust me, there's always one person.
there's always something. I want to talk
yeah.
to you about exercise because, of course, diets are very important. Nutrition is exceptionally important, but moving is really important too. And you are, again, so generous with exercise. I love that you superset. I superset. People don't understand what supersetting
Yeah, I
is.
love supersetting.
I try to explain it to everyone. I said it's a very concise, and you get it done, and it works. You know, all this fancy stuff. You don't need all that stuff. You could do your basics. So, talk to me about your philosophy around exercise.
Well, I'll first start off by saying diet is 80%. You cannot out exercise a bad diet. And I just like to say that because I think so many people like to use their inability to exercise, their lack of opportunity to exercise, their whatever excuse not to exercise, and as an excuse not to start. And trust me, diet means way more. So regardless of your exercise level or what you're doing, make diet a priority. Number two, walking is the most underutilized form of exercise, out there. So simply making, increasing your step count is a powerful thing. Sitting is the new smoking. So simply adding an extra 1,000 calories, 1,000 steps, 2,000 steps to your daily step count can really add up in the long run. So, I think that's where you should start, where you should, begin your journey if you're doing nothing. Number three, strength training is a must. Women have to realize the reason why our metabolism's slow, why we get that midsection fat, as we age, it's not all about hormones. It's more about sarcopenia, the loss of muscle mass. And the more that you can do to maintain your current muscle mass, regardless of how little or how much that is, and or build on that muscle mass, is going to give you so much more return on your investment, specifically for your metabolism. I mean, we are in a state of metabolic crisis right now. Most people are struggling with really sluggish metabolisms, whether it be because of your thyroid, your muscles, your consumption of seed oils, whatever it may be. So if you're going to spend 30, 45 minutes in the gym, get off the treadmill, get off the bike, get off the Stairmaster, and start picking up weights, building muscle, investing in strength training. And for some people, strength training may be squatting with your body weight. It doesn't mean you have to be squatting 200 pounds, is really powerful. And I think you guys have to understand, as we age, your loss of functional mobility is what will cause you to reach death earlier. And a squat is about sitting in a chair and getting up. If you can't sit on the toilet and get up, if you can't sit in a chair and get up, if you can't do a squat with your body weight, then your life is going to be much shorter. So another really important reason why you should make, strength training a priority.
Can you tell everybody what a superset is?
So a superset is when you actually combine two exercises together. Usually they're like opposing, muscle groups. So you may do one bicep curl, and then the next one may be a tricep extension. And you'll do, maybe 12 reps of each, take a quick break, 12 reps of each, take a quick break, 12 reps of each. So most of the time people will do anywhere from 2 to 4 sets of each superset. And so you just, I would say most of my workouts will have typically 4 supersets. It might be an upper body, it might be a lower body, it might be a full body. So basically it's just pairing 2 exercises together that you kind of do back to back. Usually opposing muscle groups.
And you get great results.
Yeah, great results. And it's super easy to do.
Because Amanda, honestly, it's not just, I know you're this wealth of knowledge.
Are you ready to see the meower that you've been?
Yeah, I've been listening to your kitty. Who is that?
Oh gosh.
Who is that?
That's my cat who wants to go out, and I was hoping that she would just be quiet, but she's going to talk to us.
What's her name?
Her name is Bella.
No, she's beautiful. What kind of cat is she?
A pound kitty.
She's a mix. She's whatever the pound baby. She's beautiful. So I was saying, I feel like you are not, of course, you're such a wealth of knowledge, and certainly for sure, like just having you in my back pocket every day that I go and I'm watching you. I mean, you have incredible recipes also on your Instagram, and of course you have your website. People can reach out to you on Instagram and on your website too. But I always say this. This might come out not sounding proper, but I used to say this. I'm not going to an esthetician who has bad skin. I'm just not. Like I used to say that if I went to an esthetician and their skin wasn't nice, well, I don't want to be judgmental, but why is their skin not nice? I'm not saying every RD has to look fabulous and they have to be fit and thin, and maybe they choose not to, and that's their choice. But honestly, I'm not just saying this because we've just had this amazing conversation. You look unbelievable. Like, you don't just talk the talk. I watch you do these exercises and I'm thinking, yeah, that's right. That's how you do it, because you're not just preaching, you are doing it. You're doing the work. You're showing people. You're saying, look, you want that bicep, you want your thighs, your butt to look like this. You have to do the work.
I was encouraging my clients, I tell them, I'm like, I'm not asking you to do anything that I'm not doing myself. And I think if you look at someone and you idolize them, I mean, this is something that we talk a lot about, creating your identity around your goals. If you look at someone and you say, wow, she looks great. She looks like she has a ton of energy. She looks like she's vibrant. You have to think to yourself, what do you think that she does to get there? Because nobody is just blessed, it doesn't come, without any effort really for anybody. I think everybody that, is putting in the work in some way. So you have to think, how can I emulate that in a consistent way for myself?
I love that you just said that. Not everybody, you're just not born blessed. You have to work. It's just the way it goes. We have blessings all over the place, but when it comes to our health and wellness journey, you've got to work at it. You just do.
That's right.
Amanda, where can people find you? Can you tell everybody?
Well, I'm definitely super active on all social media, but specifically Instagram, Amanda Nighbert, RD. I'm sure you'll put in the show notes.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm everywhere, TikTok, YouTube. You can find me at my website, amandanighbert.com. I've got a ton of great resources that you can download for free, specifically around fasting, intermittent fasting, meal planning, alcohol. So you'll be sure to want to check those out.
And your TED Talk.
Oh, and my TED Talk. Absolutely.
So good.
The best, probably the most powerful 10 minutes that you will ever listen to with regards to shifting your mindset for long-term success.
I'm very grateful to have met you and that you took the time to speak with me and to share all of this with all of our viewers and listeners. And this was a very joyful hour for me, because I feel that you're the real deal. And this was really wonderful. And I'm so happy I found you. Happy I found you. This is fantastic. Amanda, thank you so much. Be well, stay healthy, feel great, and keep doing everything that you're doing.
Thank you. It's been so fun.
Thanks, Amanda.